Good morning, everyone. Calling the meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 in order. All right. Do I have approval of minutes of Tuesday, December 17th, 2020?
You do?
Do I have a
Second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Minutes have been approved. Action items. Okay, first I want to introduce, well, I don't want to introduce, but I want to say welcome to Jim. Jim.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, Jim?
Okay, I'm a retired school teacher. Lived in Southern California. My son and his wife live in Sherwood. So that started bringing my wife and I up to this area, and we started vacationing here probably 7 or 8 years ago. And 3 years ago, we purchased a home that was in very sad shape. And we had to have some foundation work, and Coaster Construction worked their magic on it. And so my wife and I moved in a year ago. So we feel very grateful to be in Cannon Beach, and this opportunity to be on the committee presented itself. And so I see it as an opportunity to give back, hopefully.
Good.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Hey, will somebody let Jim know that he's in my seat?
Oh,
That's
Just
right.
kidding, just kidding.
I could feel some heat from some stairs.
Right.
Feel it.
I could feel it, yeah.
Yeah, I want that back in April.
I'm just keeping the seat warm for you. That's all I'm
Okay.
doing.
Yeah, he goes, you
Present to win, okay?
can't do it when you're in Palm Springs.
Okay, so let's move on to the 2025 officer nominations and elections. As you know, I've been your chair, and I don't mind staying as your chair for another year since I turn them out in December.
Well, I think that's be a great choice. You just go ahead and use by best date. Oh, don't, no, yeah, we don't want you, I know you're expiring, but
So you're making a motion?
I'm making a motion. They stay as our,
Motion for the use by.
yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand. Are we voting on chair and vice chair right now?
Just chair right now.
Okay, and you said you're willing to stay on.
I'm willing to stay on.
Okay,
Yep, great.
All right, so do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey,
Seconds.
super.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No. Any discussion? No?
No,
Okay.
just good luck. You've been doing great, and just we look forward to another great year.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so now we take a nominations for vice chair for 2025. So I'd like to nominate Scott.
Okay. All right. I think I'm seasoned, so,
Do I have a second?
second. Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
I'll hang in there. I'll put my seatbelt on.
Okay, let's move on to utility and relief requests. Okay, first one.
On these, when we get to Dan Simpson, which I think is the first one, I want to have a little bit of discussion before we move right to the voting.
Okay.
No problem. Okay, so yes, Dan Simpson is the first one.
Okay, so this is a hose bib situation with a hose left on. The owner stated that it was left on by persons unknown, and they apparently submitted a video to the city that I haven't seen. My main concern is if we were to, and the staff recommendation is to deny. My main concern is if we were have to explain why, well, and backing up a little bit, obviously under any scenario, the landowner is going to be paying for the water use under our policy. And so if it was approved, they'd get $31.20, if I'm reading it right, in sewer credits.
Mhm.
But the main issue is if we were to explain why this is being denied, what would that explanation be?
Exactly what our ordinance says,
What is that?
that negligence on the homeowner's part, it doesn't qualify for a lake relief.
Yeah, I used to call it operator error. In other words, you should make sure that your hose is not available to people just to turn on when you're not there. So it is operator error.
Well,
know the- I don't know the circumstances,
hang
and
on,
I-
hang on there, hang on.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just gonna make some counterpoints here, and I'm probably ultimately gonna go with this, but you know, if just going back, and I'll try not to tell too many stories, 8 or so years ago or 7 or plus years ago, when I came on the committee, our form said something to the extent that hose bibs would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, recognizing that there's a lot of different situations on hose bibs. And in this case, you know, to me, the operator is the homeowner. So it's not like they left the hose on and went back in the house. I assume they're implying that they've been maybe the victim of vandalism or some sort of criminal mischief. So I have a hard time calling it operator error. So, and I think that's why we had it in our old form, that hose bibs would be case by case basis. And I think we might want to reconsider that. But once again, then what would our basis for denial be?
Well, it's fair. Your statements are very true, and maybe we should watch the video. Because if it is vandalism or something like that, that makes it a totally different story.
I think just one thing, I think we've had not several, but we have had a few of this come across, and we have always denied them. It's up to the homeowner's responsibility to make sure that their hoses, anything is locked up correctly. If we start looking case by case, this is gonna go forever. And so I don't agree that we should be doing that. There's a reason why we removed it at one point, and we should just continue with our ordinance as it is.
Okay, stay
That's my
consistent.
opinion.
I think the original spirit that you guys were revising the ordinance under was to drive greater water conservation.
Yes,
And so with things like outside showers and hose bibs and irrigation and stuff,
And we've had
we've
some-
encouraged locking mechanisms, especially for people that are second homeowners and they're not here to keep an eye on things or don't have a property management that can keep an eye on it regularly. Another reason why we encourage eye on water, so they know right away that they've got water running somewhere and someone can either go over and address it, or the next time they're out, they change their hose bibs to locking mechanisms.
Well, it can be as simple as just taking the handle off the bib.
Yes.
Right,
True.
same thing.
It's one thing if the hose bib is broken, but when it's just left on, it's a totally different scenario than it being
Correct.
broken.
Okay, once again, what does the ordinance say that we can base this on?
negligence.
Okay, all right, okay. The other point supporting the denial, I think, is that if you look at our form as well as the city's policy, it only refers to leaks, repairs, plumbers, receipts, etc. And this is not a failure of a system. So in my mind, it's not a leak. So I just want to have that discussion.
Okay.
And so we can go ahead and put it to a vote.
Thank you, Doug. In a way, I consider that as a leak, but just so you guys know, so.
I see a leak as a failure of a component because, you know, again, once again, if you look at our forms, it says we expect leaks to be prepared and plumber's receipts and a policy of providing relief for leaks. Nothing failed here. It was just an inadvertent, or inadvertent or purposeful, release of a valve. So I don't think it even qualifies as a definition of a leak.
Okay, Doug.
Which
I
would
kind of agree with you.
make it ineligible. So anyway,
Right.
for a lot of reasons here.
It's kind of like what I call in use. It was in use. I mean, everybody is using their hoses on a daily basis. They're in use. We don't know which ones are vandalized and which ones aren't. You know, it's up to the owner to make sure it's not something that is going unforeseen, you know, something like that. And I think that we should make sure that they have eye on water, you know, just personally, because that has saved me, you know, from a ghost flushing. I didn't realize that I was leaking water and all of a sudden, boom. And so we fixed it and gone.
I think this could be considered a leak only if the valve had failed.
Yes,
The spigot had failed.
that's good.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Doug.
And
So
you-
yeah, I'm good at moving on when you guys want to.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to deny the Doug Simpson's request?
Yes, I would
Do
deny.
I have a second?
I second.
Okay,
All in
Great.
favor?
Aye.
aye.
I,
Motion has been. Okay, so let's move on to
Sure you get eye on water.
David. Okay, David Hadner, do I have a motion to approve staff recommendations? It is.
Yeah, motion to deny,
Okay,
or pardon me, to approve. Yeah.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
you do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any discussion? It's moved and approved. Let's see here, that we have Kim Potter and Mary Beth Cotter.
Oh, yeah.
Staff recommendations.
I move to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second it. This is Doug.
Cotter,
Yeah,
Potter? Okay,
they're very responsible people, yes.
any discussion? No, motion has been moved and approved. Let's see, All Roy. Do I have a motion to approve staff recommendation?
Oh, yeah. Gotta find it.
I move to approve staff recommendation to approve this relief.
Okay,
Second?
I agree.
Please.
That is good.
Do I have any discussion? No, motion has been moved and approved. All right, thank you, guys. Let's move on to public works status.
Did I miss it or did we offer public comment?
Oh, that's good.
Oh, we did not.
Good point.
Sorry, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Jan?
She doesn't have her hand raised.
Okay,
Going once.
make sure.
Hey, that's a good point.
Thank you.
Hey, in your second term.
Public works status.
Okay. I'm going to take us through all of our projects for Jim's benefit, just to give him a quick thumbnail on
Super.
with everything that we've worked on. So committee members, bear with me if you've heard this a couple of times. First, I want to point you to the Civil West document that's in the packet. That is the current status of our bridge assessment.
Okay.
As you will see on there, it appears that retrofitted as per the scope that they were hired to do. They will give us the options associated with the retrofit and what it would look like if we opted to not retrofit the bridge, some rebuild options. I don't know why we would want to do that if our retrofit was possible, but that's council's call. So that will be the next phase of the bridge. And Jim, just so you know, this was a project for seismic assessment of the First Street Bridge. That is our one of our evacuation routes. And so currently the bridge does not meet seismic standards for Oregon. And so hired put out to bid and hired a engineering structural firm to come in and assess it and tell us if it was possible to retrofit the existing bridge or if we would have to rebuild it. And so this is where we are
Okay.
at assessment right now.
Okay. So it's not something that's like ready to go out to bid and,
Well,
Or
right
soon.
now, this phase of it was put out to bid and they're fulfilling the scope of this. So
Okay.
the next phase would be looking at the magnitude of the retrofit undertaking. And then we would write another scope and put that out to bid, should council give us the nod to do so, or ask us to bring them additional information. Okay. In wastewater, as you know, this year we put permanent generators in Midway, Siusla, Ecola, and Maine pump stations. And we did some additional improvements on electronics, some of the floats and pumps in those pump stations. So those were our four major projects for wastewater. All those are complete. We are finishing the Matanuska, moving the electronics from the old location after we put the cover over it to the walls of the new cover. And so they're nearing completion of that. It looks like $1 million. I think one of these meetings, I'd really like to take you guys on a field trip and have you go out and see the pump stations. I think some of you had seen pump stations prior, and if you could see them now, you just wouldn't even
Good.
believe it. I mean, Mike and his team have done a phenomenal job. Everything's painted, the floors are sealed. I mean, when City Hall's demoed, my office is gonna be one.
Seismic proof.
They look, so, everything's labeled, clean. I mean,
That is a shelter.
is money well spent. Water resiliency, we have our 3 phases of our $17 million water resiliency project. Phase 1 was to put the seismic valves on each of our reservoir water tanks, with the exception of the one that's going to be rebuilt, which is our concrete tank. The other 2 are steel. That phase is finished. Phase 2, we got a lot of the preliminary work done. That's replacing the lines from our springs down to the water treatment plant, back up to the reservoir and down to the public works location where we will have a fill station for portable water tanks to get water to the community within 72 hours of an event. And we're not quite halfway through that. Like I said, we got a lot of the preliminary pit work done in the spring, April timeframe, weather permitting. Tappening that won the bid for this part of the project will be back to start pulling lines, and they'll all be HDPE seismic resilient lines. Phase 3 is the rebuilding of the tank. So we will be, the current concrete tank will stand as is right now. We will build a new tank just adjacent from that. We'll take you on a tour.
Yes.
Or your teammates will
Okay.
take you on a tour of the location. And so we have the funding for all of those phases currently. Business Oregon has awarded us 1% low interest loans with a principal forgiveness that we do not have to pay back.
Wow.
So we got extremely lucky with that. The last piece of our water resiliency is what we refer to as 3A, which is the backbone along Highway 101 that goes from the north end of town to the south end of town. It makes our system redundant so that we were, after a seismic event, we know we will potentially be in 3 separated parts based on where our slide areas are in town. And so that line would enable us to get water from the north end to the south end of town, and again, HDPE pipe. So that's the water resiliency. That is not funded currently. I'm in the process of cinching a deal on a $7 million grant through FEMA for us, hopefully. And at the same time, I put application through for another low interest loan with Business Oregon. They've come out and done a site inspection for phase 1, which they have to do with every phase of our project. They were very excited about what they saw so far, that we've completed, where we are with phase 2. And they authorized me to put paperwork in to ask for a $7 million loan should we not get the FEMA grant.
Okay.
So,
And Karen, did you say this pipeline would run adjacent to the 101 from the north end?
all along the Highway 101, north end to south end. So that's water resiliency. Our new tank, by the way, will be concrete, reinforced concrete, not steel. The other water projects we did this year was the East Harrison water line replacement. That was a master plan project, and we completed that. We are in the midst of the Haystack Heights master plan project, where we bring our water line from the west side of Highway 101, bore underneath the highway to the east side to the Haystack Heights neighborhood to loop that system for better fire protection if that wooded area or even structures were to catch fire in that neighborhood. It's been a master plan project since our master plans were put together. We just had a very difficult time creating a path to get us in the neighborhood.
Mm.
We had two property owners that work with the city, bless their hearts, and gave us a path in which to do that.
Okay.
And so we were able to move forward on this. Council gave us the funding. And so we're waiting for one report from ODOT, and that will be ready to put out to RFP for the construction. Our goal was to be done with that project, getting it across the highway and into the neighborhood by May. We're going to be super challenged to meet that. I doubt seriously we'll be able to, but we're going to give it our best shot. For parks, we built the Midtown bathroom. Council gave us the funds for that out of our tourism dollars. And the contractor has an extensive tick sheet they're working through right now of things they need to address. We need to get the handicap parking painted before we can open the fence and let people start using it. There are some landscaping things that we need to take care of when we're beyond this cold weather. But other than that, we're in good shape with that project. It'll be wrapped up. Hopefully by spring break, we'll have the fence down and the painting down and everything ready to go. That's what we're shooting for. Get rid of those porta potties. In roads, we did a street audit of the entire town. We do that about every 2 years. But this time was a little bit different. The team helped me with that. And we are putting all that information into our GIS mapping system. Roads was one of the things that we did not have in that as far as our current condition and or maintenance that's been done. We only track maintenance on paved streets. We don't track maintenance on gravel. It's kind of irrelevant. Although we do keep an eye on those streets, we just don't track maintenance the way we do for asphalt.
Karen, on the roads part, Steve and I are happy to go ahead and complete the rest. Do
Good.
you have any?
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Volunteer.
Hear your voice, Stephen.
Yes,
That's great. You picked up the ball.
of course.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. I can print you guys off that rest of the
Yeah,
week.
we just need to know what.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Good.
The Center Street beach access was a huge undertaking. We worked with OPRD to get that one done because the stairs extended out onto their property. So it was a joint venture budget wise and project wise.
May I ask where Center Beach access?
Center Street beach access is off of Hemlock, the really steep street that goes down before you get to the S curves.
Oh,
Right, yeah.
Intersects with
yeah, right there at
It's
Viewpoint.
no stopping, no standing, and there's always people stopping.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We have
Absolutely.
a stairs we want to redo at the top that our team did just quick to get it open last summer.
Okay.
They need to be a little more reinforced. And so the team's taking that on and
Okay.
have that done. And then lastly, in roads, we're in the midst of working with all of our first responders, fire, police, emergency management, and of course, our staff team planning, public works, and OPRD to design to rebuild our Talavana emergency vehicle ramp and incorporate the ADA access into that new design and get rid of that kind of a switchback
Mhm.
ADA access. It's a log catcher. Most of
Yeah, I
your
saw that
tunnel
during the
logs,
King times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're gonna end up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not. So we're working
Yeah.
on that as we speak. We had kicked it off last year and tried to go as low budget as we possibly could by using OPRD's designer that they have on staff. They graciously offered those services to us as partners on this project. But their plates are as full as ours, and we just didn't get a lot of traction off of going that route. So we went ahead and awarded that scope to the folks that are doing our bridge. They built many vehicle ramps and boat ramps and things like that. So this is their gig.
May I
So
guess,
they're
Oregon, OPRD, Oregon Parks and Rec?
Oregon Parks, that's state parks.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Stop me if I.
Yeah, I just.
Um, And then the engineering firm that's working on the bridge along with Civil West is KPFF, and they're the ones doing the ramp for us, the design. So once that design is in its draft form, we will take that to council once the team kisses and blesses it and says, yeah, this is the one we want to do. We'll take it to council with the estimated cost and then get some direction on what kind of funding's available for us. There's going to be some new infrastructure funding announced here soon. There's already some funding that is out there that's available to us, but we have to have a quasi design. We're chasing a grant right now that could cover this design phase for us. And so we're early stages of that project. So, and I think that
I'll
covers
just
everything.
touch on the recycling center. We did do some upgrades at the recycling center. This last season, we purchased a new cardboard baler, which was
Badly needed.
badly needed.
Mhm.
Along with, we purchased a new forklift for the recycling
Yeah.
center.
Very good.
Yeah. Yes, so, and some of you may have heard about the new RMA bill that came out that requires everybody to reduce their or increase their recycling capability to reduce the landfill impact. And so we're getting a lot of information about that, how it directly affects us. We have some funding that may be coming our way. And there's some things that we're toying with as far as how we could make impact at the recycle. We're kind of landlocked out there. And so we don't have a opportunity to increase the footprint without sacrificing parking spaces. But our desire is to make a greater impact relative to plastics. We're already working with 3 of the universities in Oregon to trial a filter that's put on washing machines to try to prevent plastics from coming into wastewater plant and or ultimately out onto the beach. This RMA money through this bill for recycling may give us another opportunity to make greater impact with plastics in our recycle center as well. So all of that's early on. The majority of these are done or very well on their way. So that's pretty much what Public Works has on their plate right now as far as projects.
Sounds like quite a bit.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of these or all of these are in our budget. But look over the budget, any questions that you guys have relative to projects you see that I failed to update you, please ask, because
Well,
they become kind of the norm for me and I forget that, you know, you guys may not have been able to catch some of the council meetings of things where I go forward and ask for money or make updates or whatnot. So please feel free to ask.
Doug has a question. Maybe he's
Doug?
to ask.
Yes, I learned how to use the little hand icon. That's pretty cool.
Put your hand down.
Yeah, let's see, it's right here. Let me
You
see.
can't adjust the fingers, Doug, just.
There, I lowered it.
got a puppet. Got a little puppet.
I want first a comment, which is, and I've said it before, but I'll keep saying it. Accolades to Karen and her staff for continually chasing down grants, loans,
Yes.
and these monies that come in to make these projects happen, both in the past and now. I'm just continue to be impressed by by the motivation to do the work, which believe me, it's very hard to fill out the applications and dot the i's, cross the t's, and everything. So once again, that everything you do there takes the burden off the taxpayer. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to go back real quick. I didn't want to interrupt your flow, Karen. I had not really a question, but I want to make sure I got my mind right on the First Street Bridge study. And I looked at the Civil West memorandum here to try to revisit that. And I've asked before. The first sentence says the First Street Bridge over Ecola Creek is a critical tsunami evacuation route for downtown Cannon Beach. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. And basically they say the purpose of the study is to decide whether to replace or rehabilitate the First Street Bridge to make it seismically resilient. You get down to the last part here, it says based on collected information, it looks like maybe retrofitting the existing bridge is the best alternative. And then finally, they say, these alternatives will be further evaluated with a cost benefit analysis to identify the preferred alternative for improving this critical tsunami evacuation route. So once again, reading this, my understanding is the study is to look at the most feasible opportunity to make the bridge seismically resilient, but not to make it tsunami resilient. I
Correct.
guess under the theory that if you make it seismically resilient and it will, and we have an earthquake, the public can get across the bridge prior to the tsunami hitting. And so it's not either necessary or maybe not cost effective to look at tsunami resilience. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
It is
Okay.
interesting. It is kind
Yeah.
of interesting that you bring up the good point, Doug, and that is that they kind of mix the two there. They're saying on one hand, it's seismic retrofit and resilient. And then they say it needs to be a tsunami evacuation route. Well, if it's not tsunami proof, which nothing really can be, depending on
No.
the size of the tsunami, but they do mix the names there, the nomenclature, and I guess just the assumption is just what you said, that if it survives the earthquake, then we can get out before the tsunami hits, depending on, where the epicenter is.
Right, that's the way I read it too, Steve. And I guess I would say, hopefully the city is looking at its the reliability and robustness, if that's a word, of the early warning system. If we're going to invest this amount of money in making it seismically resilient so that the public has adequate time to basically rush across the bridge.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we're putting we already put the seismic valves on our tanks.
Yes.
So that enables us to save the water that's in the tanks. And in the last council meeting, our emergency manager gave an update on the status of the cows and where
Okay.
we are with our previous attempt to try to repair them and our options to be able to replace the system as a whole. And he'll be bringing the financials and the details of that back in the February 4th meeting. So we will have a community alert system once again in place.
Correct.
So Karen, that brings me to the point, that was my concern too on the bridge is, we worked on this CAL system forever and we eventually now need to go ahead and replace it.
Right.
So I was thinking about the same thing with the bridge.
Yeah.
It's like, we're gonna spend all this money to retrofit this bridge
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
is it gonna keep going to the same way? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the assessment that the Civil West will eventually bring us is exactly that, is the retrofit and what kind of a lifespan that gives us with the bridge that is this bridge current age. And don't forget that the bridge is structurally sound. ODOT does a evaluation of it every year and they have found it to be sound, but it is reaching a point of needing maintenance that the bridge deck needs to be replaced. So before we do an overlay or spend a bunch of money on that, we wanted to determine if we're going to be rebuilding it. We wouldn't want to spend a bunch of money to rebuild the deck.
Right, right.
So this is why it was a timing thing. And so ultimately, if it comes back to council that the retrofit is as expensive as replacing the bridge where we have a greater lifespan, that may ultimately be their decision. It's kind of like what we did with the tank, the water tank, our current concrete tank. We said it's not seismically sound. Does it make sense to retrofit it? Or does it make sense to replace it? And it takes time to do that analysis, and that's basically what's happening
Yeah.
with the bridge.
And I basically agree with both Doug and Steve on the tsunami. There's no way, if you watch the films of the Philippines, things like that, once that tsunami hits, it's gone.
You got bigger issues.
You got much bigger issues and you kill people really when it comes back out. And so, but to get it seismic good, that's great.
Right.
Because it'll withstand that initial quake.
Yeah.
So it can get you the heck over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
Great, thank you very much. Anything for good of the order?
Yes, I have one that I want to just introduce, and that is I've watched a lot of Zoom meetings in the past here. And there's a lot of frustration in the community that results in, I think, emails, loose cannon emails, pot stirring, misinformation, frustration. And I think if we create a simple help hotline for people to call in and get the right information first, before they go off and start sending emails out, it'll be a help to the community. And I've just seen that, and and it would take a 4-hour meeting down to maybe 2. It's just a lot of frustration that I feel that we can reduce. Now, I've talked to Barb Knopp. She thinks it's a great idea. And I've talked to Bruce through Jennifer. I haven't talked to Bruce directly, but I just want to present that as as something that we could look at in 2025 to create some kind of a help hotline to call in to reduce the frustration.
And you're talking about the whole committees for all the committees for the city.
Yes.
Right.
There would be a public information officer or some kind of spokesman, a person that would then get back with the individual so that they reduce the level of misinformation too. We have a lot of misinformation that goes on. And
Number would be the contact, right?
I'm not volunteering that. I'm just saying that I think it would help the meetings to be more productive, less controversial, and less toxic. That's all.
I agree. We need to disseminate information a little bit better.
Yes.
We don't have a newspaper or anything that it comes out free. But maybe an information, something, sheet
A
or
bulletin.
maybe a page on the website that goes over a lot of pertinent things with the pertinent
Yes.
topics of the day with different details. I think sometimes if you have a help hotline and somebody hears one thing and somebody hears another thing, you actually might create more confusion than less.
And
When you're talking
right.
about a person-to-person
Yeah.
communication, sometimes things get lost.
In the council retreat, they did talk about the desire to bring back the city's bulletin.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm talking about, the most frequent, the 5-hour retreat Zoom. Okay.
Good to listen to the February 4th meeting, because I think some things in the retreat will be prioritized, or they'll put some focus on that. And this may be one of the things, so listen in if you get a chance, or if you can't on the 4th, listen to it later to kind of see where that goes.
I like the idea that Steve has too. It's some way of taking misinformation and corralling it. So
Yeah.
it's there so it doesn't spread out in the community.
And that's one of the things that I just wanted to share with you guys. It's important for us to actually look at those Zoom meetings if we're not able to attend or anything, because you'd be surprised the things that you learned on those meetings.
Right. And social media can become, basically, it's a good tool, but it can become kind of a controversial pot stirring if you don't watch it.
On another note, I want to congratulate Steve for becoming a member of the planning commission.
Hey,
Congratulations, I feel for you.
you'll be doing great. You'll do great.
Yes. Anyways, if anybody else doesn't have anything further.
One last thing, I would just like to personally thank this committee. We have not had the divisiveness in this committee.
No.
I want you to know how much as a staff person, I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate the relationship that staff and this committee's had together and the things that we've been able to accomplish.
Bet.
We couldn't have done that without your support, your input. So Doug, I know you're not here, but I'm looking at you the same way as the other guys. I am truly grateful for
Good team.
this team being low maintenance and high production. And I hope we stay intact.
And
All right. Thank you.
What's that?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Thank you.
And I want